Ready, Dennis?
Ready?
All right. And in 3, 2. I gotta turn that down. It's gonna echo. And in 3, 2. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RGVSports.com podcast. I am your host, Jon LaFollette, and I cover football and other high school sports for the Monitor in McAllen and RGVSports.com for the world at large. And if you're listening to this, you already know what it is. It's week 2 of Class 5A football here in the Rio Grande Valley. And to my right, as always, he is a man who puts the couch in Ed Couch, Dennis Silva.
How are you doing, John?
I'm doing good. You weren't here last time we were doing a podcast.
I missed a good one.
You did miss a good one. We recapped week 1.
You missed 2 of them.
But,
That's true.
But we're here nonetheless. We're going to talk about week 5 here. Class 5A week 2 in just a second. And back behind the camera on Periscope duty is Mario Aguirre. He puts the Share in Sharyland or Sharyland Pioneer, whichever one you want it to be.
I put the Grand in Rio Grande City.
Or you could put the pie in Sharyland Pioneer. Everyone loves pie. Dennis, what's your favorite kind of pie?
Cherry.
Nice. Greg? Way back in the back, Greg Luca, covers 36A.
Lemon meringue.
Lemon meringue.
Nice.
That is such a typical thing for a white person to say. What about you?
I don't know.
You have a favorite kind of pie? That's the most Mario thing you've ever
Apple?
said. You've said a lot of Mario-esque things, but not having a favorite pie. Did you just pick apple? You just pull it out of your butt? Out of the Brownsville Lopez, or what'd you do?
It's a family show.
Huh?
Go with pumpkin.
Pumpkin pie? There you go. I like apple pie.
Apple with cherry.
Peach cobbler. I don't know. I can't really think of one off the top of my head. But anyways, you know what I can think of?
What can you think of, John?
We got to talk about this Donna Weslaco game.
We have to.
But before we get there,
Okay.
general news from your district. You cover 32-5A for the Modern RGV Sports. What are just some general tidbits of information you got for us before we get to your game of the week here?
Well, it seems Mercedes' new stadium is set to be ready for their home opener next week, September 11th, against LaFollette. The elevator, which I'm excited about. I'm excited about anything. It's the elevator. Not enough press boxes have elevators these days. And they forced me to walk a lot more than I really intend to when I cover football games. But that's about 80% done. The field house won't be ready until late November. That's probably a no-go, but they have a field house already. That's not a big deal. They got to do the track, which they say it takes 10 days to do the track around the field.
Really?
It's basically just like a bunch of – it's basically got the first layer of pavement. There's still a ways to go, but they want to work this Sunday. They're optimistic they can maybe get on that field Wednesday or Thursday of next week for a walkthrough, be ready to play Friday. The backup plan, if that doesn't happen for whatever reason, like rain could be a possibility, then they're going to play at LaFollette next week, not this upcoming week 2. That'll be week 3. So they're excited about it. I'm excited to see that new stadium. I went there out 2 weeks ago, and it looks really good.
You mentioned LaFollette. Everyone knows that, of course, is Spanish for the Feria.
That's true. You're right.
So that's your Spanish lesson for the day. And of course, as a white guy, I feel very proud to say something like that.
You should.
Anyways, so you can read a bit more about that in today's issue of the Monitor. You can find it at RGVSports.com. Dennis has a brief tidbit in there. You also talked a bit about PSG High, who took it on the chin, as their coach said last week. They lost to PSG North by a score of 78-26. What were just some things that just didn't go right there for that team last Friday?
Everything didn't go
I mean,
right?
yeah, when you allow almost 80 points, I think that's a pretty concise way of saying it. Sure.
I think, okay, I mean, they have to replace 10 starters on that defense. Only 4 starters, period, returns. The offense looked fine, so we're going to mention that as a positive. They moved the ball well. 26 points any other night for PSG High is more than enough to win a game. Defensively, though, when you're dealing with like a lot of young players and a lot of guys who are new to this full-time varsity level of football, not knowing assignments, not making the right reads, blown coverages. There was just a lot of that. You can tell a veteran PSG North team versus a PSG High team that's just getting off the ground still, very much in rebuilding mode. And what was impressive is that's typical. That's probably what you expect. To expect in week 1 probably says a lot more about PSG North than it does about PSG High.
Right. That was something that Greg Luca, our 36A reporter, has said. Coming into the season, it's hard to put week 1 in context at first because you had nothing really else to kind of bounce your findings off of, I suppose. You also talk about Donna North in your notebook. They're still struggling to get their first win in varsity. This is only, their second season as a team? So they're still trying to find an identity there, and you can read about that in today's issue of the Monitor or on RGVSports.com. Now, let's get into some actual football talk.
Are those not football teams, John?
Huh?
Are those not football teams?
Well, I mean, they are football teams, but it was more of like, we're talking about the stadium and elevators. We were talking about, you know what I mean.
Scoreboard.
Game talk. I want to talk about game talk.
Let's do it.
Let's talk about actual game talk. And the game that you're going to be going to on Friday Tell me a bit about that. Weslaco and Donna. From what I hear, it's a pretty big deal.
Huge deal. This goes back all the way to the 1920s, which boggles my mind a little bit.
Should we start playing like roaring 20s jazz music while we talk about this segment?
No.
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 We can start talking like 20s like speakeasy people.
No, we're good.
No.
We're done.
I hear that was Weslaco Panthers. They sure do play a swinging football game. I don't know.
No, you don't.
Don't talk. Don't ask me to say the name of that Donna High School football team. I find it to be quite offensive. Anyways, yeah, it's a rivalry game. It's a big deal. Kids are going to be pumped there. You're going to be covering it because it is in your district at Donna. Just some of the X's and O's. What are some of the matchups you look for there? What's the storylines you're looking for in this game?
Storylines is just another chapter in this rivalry. It's the 82nd meeting between these two teams, which is crazy. Donna High has lost the last two, but they hold the overall edge. There's something like 14 games over 500 in the overall series. Two teams that take a lot of pride in winning the trenches, ground and pound, defense-oriented. Last year's game was 14-13 in favor of Weslaco High, but Donna had some opportunities to win that game, some blown field goals, blown special teams opportunities that I'm sure to this day they think about because you just don't forget losses like that against your rivals. But it's going to be packed. It's the Dairy Queen big game of the week on Fox Sports Southwest.
Yeah, the TV crews are going to be there.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's going to be exciting.
Big time, Dennis. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. It's actually my first Donna Weslaco High game in my 4 years here.
Oh, really?
So I am very excited. At the reservation.
No. We're not calling it that.
At the reservation.
No.
And I'm just excited because, like, this early in the season, a week 2 matchup of this intensity, that's pretty cool. You don't see it usually until district play.
Right.
And they used to be in the same district, so that's what it would come down to. But it's really cool to see it in week 2 and just to all the hype, all the intensity, all the kids getting into it. It's just a lot of fun.
How long has Coach Leal been there at Donna?
This is his 3rd year, I believe.
Okay. Since both teams kind of play this ground and pound style, it's a lot of run oriented football. How do these teams kind of go about scheming for each other when their game plan seems to be so similar? Like, do you have any idea about how these, at least on the Donna side, since they're in your coverage area, at least how they go about when there's such a level of familiarization, at least in terms of X's and O's for these teams?
I think Donna, for the most part, they just know if they have their responsibilities down, they can stop pretty much any opponent in the valley that comes their way. They have big kids, big, strong, physical, fast kids. If they don't blow their assignments, it's going to be very hard for someone to run down the middle on them, even to get to the outsides with their secondary, which is young and athletic. I think what Weslaco High has to be a little bit encouraged by is the fact that Donna High just gave up 49 points to Brownsville Veterans Memorial.
Right.
And Brownsville Veterans is a very good team, but that's very unlike Donna High. They like to keep it low scoring. They want to keep it ground and pound, as few possessions as possible. It got into a shootout that I'm even impressed that Donna High was able to sustain and be right there.
Right. They were down by as many as like 21 points in that game against Brownsville, weren't they?
Yeah. So they can score, but I think with anything you're going to see is Donna High take a little bit more pride in their defense this week, especially against the Weslaco High team.
Weslaco is in my coverage area. I cover 31-6A for the Monitor. We can talk a bit about their side at length a bit tomorrow, but in terms of Weslaco, again, you mentioned the fact that just like Donna, they want to run and ground and pound. Weslaco comes into this game 1-0. They beat Harlingen South last week by a score of 28-24. In that game, they only attempted about 6 passes. Only 2 of them were complete, and there's an interception in that game. So again, it's all going to be run heavy. Coming into this game, the leading rusher for Weslaco is going to be Brian Guetta, who ran for 166 yards on 13 carries and a touchdown. But they had 6 or 7 other guys.
Yeah.
If you try and stop Brian Guetta, can you stop, Plan B, Plan C, Plan D? I mean, that's just the way Weslaco and Donna like to play. Just wear you down, make you tired, and try and get some points there in the fourth quarter, I suppose. But do you have a prediction for how you see this game going out?
I think it comes down to the wire again. I'm thinking 21-20 Donna. And I think a large part of it, what Donna's going to be able to do is they can throw Edward Doherty at quarterback, or they can throw Monty Bowen. I think if they can switch that up a little bit to where they can catch Weslaco off guard for a couple big plays, I think a couple big plays pretty much wins this game. That's going to be how close it's going to be, and that's just how well defended this game is going to be. So if they can divvy things up a little bit, they did it a little bit against Brownsville Vets. They can really maybe surprise the Panthers. Otherwise, not a lot of surprises here. You know what you're going to get. It's just a matter of executing.
I haven't had a chance to talk to the Weslaco football coach tomorrow, Coach Furiel. Hopefully, get a chance to do that tomorrow for my notebook in the coming days or so. But as far as the prediction, I don't know if I can really get into that right now, just because again, I want to know what Coach Villarreal is getting ready for. But you mentioned that last year's game was a 14-13 win. The year before that, Weslaco won 20-13. So I think, as you said, whatever happens, I think it's going to be close. I expect either of these teams to really get a heavy advantage on the other one. Just as last week, I asked you to pick a second game that maybe you'd want to cover aside from your game of the week. When you look at the schedule, and since it is not district, I won't limit you to just 32 5A teams. If you just look up and down the calendar of the schedule right now, what are just some of the games that you think kind of pop out to you?
There's a couple. Ecouch Los Fresnos, which I think is going to be a pretty good game. That's in the Lower Valley. That's going to be a really good test for both teams. Los Fresnos, they've suffered some injuries already. I know Ecouch's defense is already banged up. That's going to be a good game to see, especially Ecouch had the nice win over McAllen Rowe. Just want to see if they can keep that going. Another one that I'm going to Thursday actually is Palmview at PSG Southwest. Two 1-0 teams, very much the same. Like we talked about Weslaco Donna, two teams that want to ground it out and control the clock and wear the other team down. Palmview looked impressive. They looked awesome against Brownsville Lopez. I believe it was 53-7.
Yep.
Southwest 11-6 win over Valley View. As odd as it to say, that's their type of game. They want to make it ugly. They want to make it to where the few possessions they have, they're going to capitalize.
Right, but a lot of people here in the office thought that game was going to be a blowout with Southwest winning handily. I mean, did that game, have you had a chance to talk with the Southwest coach about that? I mean, what happened on their perspective to make that game as close as it was? I
think what he credited was just like these are two programs that, because they're so close to each other, there's a lot of intensity. It's almost like a rivalry, but not really. Yeah. They don't have the history. But there's a lot of intensity. I think week one matchup, both teams were really geared up and ready to go. A little bit anxious, a little bit nervous. 0-0 at halftime, and then PSG Southwest was able to pull away there in the second half. They limited their defense, looked solid. It was more, I'm just a little surprised offensively they weren't able to get into the end zone a little bit more. But they say it's a rivalry. It's one of those rivalry games that's blossoming, and it's just intensity. Week one, all the nerves were there, first game jitters type thing, and they're ready to move on.
I know that coming into the season, you were very high on Jesus Acosta for the Javelinas there. He enters this game with 116 yards from last week on 23 carries. Didn't get in the end zone, as you mentioned, but I expect that to change against Palmview. And again, when you look at this game, it's a 5A versus a 6A. Teams that are kind of looking to get into the playoff area. I know PSG Southwest is trying to make the playoffs for the first time. Yeah. But when you look at this game, I mean, how do you see this one playing out?
I think Palmview wins. But I'm going to be paying close. Can Southwest keep it competitive? Can they even take the lead? Are there areas of the game where they own? I want to see some of that. Palmview, I think, has a little bit more depth to their roster. I think they're a little bit more seasoned than Southwest. Southwest has a new quarterback, for instance. But I want to see. I see it as with the running backs in the Valley. There's Trevor Spates, and I see Jesus Acosta in that second level. He's that good. And this is a game where Jesus Acosta kind of has to show up. And not that he didn't last week, but he's got to dominate. Mm-hmm. Like, to the type of talent I think he is, and that his coaches think he is, and his teammates, I need to see him kind of have like 3 or 4 touchdowns and just kind of be able to control possession and kind of give Palmview a load.
You mentioned Trevor Spates. Last week he had 248 yards on the ground against Sherryland. Ed Doherty, who you mentioned earlier with Donna, had 236. Yeah. So let's not. I mean, you mentioned the fact that he's this multi-position kind of weapon that they can use. I mean, the numbers kind of speak to that. Again, I wish I could cover that Weslaco Donna game. I'm very jealous of you. So have fun. I'm excited for that. And if you want to get live updates from the game, be sure to follow Dennis on Twitter. What's your handle? # shameless plug.
At Den Silva 2. DEN Silva and the number 2.
What's the 2 stand for?
Second. My dad's Dennis Silva.
So you're Dennis Silva Poop. Can you legally change your name to an emoji? Like Dennis Silva Poop emoji?
I'm sure you can, right?
I mean, maybe you can. I mean, Prince changed his name to a symbol.
I'm a little bit offended right now, John.
What?
A little bit hurt.
What?
You just pretty much call me Poop.
Well, like there's good kind of poops, like regular poops. Like it's nice to have like.
Can we get just our audience? Is there such thing as a good kind of poop?
Yeah. Yes, there is.
John, enlighten us.
There is such a thing as a good kind of poop. Like you ever have like days when you just feel like bloated and heavy, and then like you everyone in the room is giving me weird looks like I'm crazy. I'm not crazy. People on Periscope or on the audio podcast, if you're listening to this.
They're all gone now.
No, they're not. No, they're not. There is such a thing as a good poop. Like there's days where you just feel a little heavy.
I mean, that's true. You're actually
carrying a little extra weight, and then nature happens to you, and then the next thing you know, you're like, man, I feel great. I'm going to go run a marathon right now. I want to go to watch a Weslaco Donna game.
I was just making sure you were using it in a positive
connotation.
competition.
Yeah, I mean, now a bad poop would be Brownsville Lopez, but let's not talk about that. Anyways, before we move on to District 30. Oh wait, no, we got to get your guarantee. That's our thing. We need a lock of the week. We did this last week, where you look at a game, you see any kind of matchup that is just so one-sided. There's absolutely no way that this team is going to lose. Last week, you picked PSA Southwest, who did win, although it was very close. It was only 11-6. Do you think? Are you looking for something bigger than just a 5-point spread here this week? What do you got for us, Dennis?
Here's my thing. There's no guarantee. I don't guarantee Donna can beat Wesco. I don't guarantee Mercedes can beat Rowe. I think they're very evenly matched, Mercedes and McAllen Rowe. That's at McAllen. I don't guarantee Couch will beat Los Fresnos.
You don't guarantee that McAllen Memorial will beat Economides?
Oh, I thought we were just talking about my district.
No, you can pick outside any district.
Okay.
You can pick outside any district.
Oh, okay.
At least for non-district season. Again, once district season rolls around here in a couple weeks, you got to stay in house. You have free range to pick whoever you want.
By the way, I will also say I don't think it's a guarantee that Donna North loses to La Jolla. I'm really high on the Donna North bandwagon right now.
Okay.
I just want to put that out there. Chiefs, I'm with you. You're headed somewhere. You're headed somewhere. And so we're good. You're 0-11 right now.
Based on what, Dennis?
Based on, I like what I'm seeing. The defense looks good, looks strong. The offense, there's an offense now. The quarterback, that's a steady position for them now. The running game, Dominic Ochoa, hey, pretty good. He's not Trevor Spates. He's not even Jesus Acosta. But Dominic Ochoa is pretty good. I'm on the Donna North bandwagon. And I'm saying it now after week 1 in year 2 for them. I don't know what I'm saying, but I'm on the bandwagon.
Who does Donna North
They
play
play
this
La
week?
Jolla High.
Okay, is that your lock? Are you guaranteeing a Donna North victory? Are you going to do it? Or are you going to take the easy way and pick the Mustangs?
I'm going to do it.
All right.
I'm going to say Donna North beats La Jolla.
There you go. Donna North gets their first varsity win.
Greg, am I far off?
Probably.
Well, we will see how that turns out. We got to have some kind of bet, some kind of gentleman's agreement. Dennis, what do you want Greg to do if
Donna North wins?
If Donna North wins, and vice versa, Greg. What do you
How
want
about
Dennis
this?
to do?
One of us buys lunch for the other one day.
There you go, easy.
Lunch. All right. So there you go. Don't let Dennis down, Donna North, because he's going to get some taco palenque out of you guys. Don't do it. Don't do it for your parents. Don't do it for pride. Don't do it for your coach.
Do it for me.
Don't do it for Chief Nation. Do it for Dennis Silva, your boy. Anyways, I think that wraps up the District 32 5A. Before we get to 31 5A with Mario, do you have any questions from Twitter or the Paraverse, I should say?
Do you want to know where Peter is?
That's a good question. He's probably catching some Z's.
They also wanted you to talk about Mercedes.
Oh, okay. We can do about that. Mercedes and McAllen Rowe. Well, McAllen Rowe, I don't know what to make of. I saw them against Couch also last week. Man, they could be, I don't know what to make. They looked up and down. Good offense.
Right.
The defense, I always have concerns about their defense.
Plus, with Mercedes, I mean, they lost last week, but they played Cal Allen.
Yeah, so
They drew.
really, you don't know.
They drew first blood. They went up 6-0, but then they got outscored 35-0 after that. So
Yeah.
two teams that really you have no real kind of feel for at this point.
True. I like Mercedes a lot, and here's why. The defense is pretty strong. That might be the best defense in 32-5A. Fabricio Quintanilla, Damian Ledesma, David Alvarado, all those guys can really, they just, I hate to use a cliche, but they fight to the ball really well, and they're always around the ball. They're always making plays.
Can you say that Mercedes has the best defense in that district one more time?
Okay, I think Mercedes may have the best defense in that district, yeah.
Hot take
take.
horn. That's your hot take horn. This week, your hot take horn is brought to you by Taco Palenque. That's not true. We don't have any sponsors in this show. We need to get some sponsors.
We do.
But make a prediction. I
think Mercedes wins. Okay. I think Mercedes wins 35-28, something like that. It's going to be close, but it's going to be a little bit of a shootout. I like Zach Gomez a lot, actually, the sophomore quarterback. He had a rough going against Cal Allen, but they're protecting him some. They're doing a lot of conservative stuff, but he's a tall kid. He can run. He looked a lot better that second half against Cal Allen. That's what you want to see. You just want to see a young kid just get better. Mm-hmm. Man, I'm using so many cliches right now. Get better and just show improvement, move the ball, that kind of thing.
It's all about heart, determination, and
Having
hustle.
fun.
Having fun. You just want them to have fun out there. That's all you want to do. But I like Mercedes a lot defensively. It's just a matter, can that offense reach its potential, especially with those receivers, because they have a lot of senior playmakers over there. How fast can Zach Gomez grow up? And I don't want to put a lot of pressure on him because they have potential. If he reaches
Well, I mean, he
it fast,
grows up one day at a time, technically.
That's true.
from a scientific aspect.
That's true.
So,
But if he gets to where everyone thinks he can be sooner than later, they're going to be really dangerous.
would you draft him in your keeper league for fantasy football?
I would. I would.
I'll tell you who I would draft about in my keeper league is Richard Lefebvre of Westlaco East.
Okay.
Sophomore quarterback, 6'5", built like a lead refrigerator. He'll just run you over. But I'll talk about him a bit more tomorrow for my podcast. So, any more questions from the Paraverse or the Twitter sphere? Or is Mario ready for 31-5A?
There was a comment that Ed Couch, no, that Los Fresnos would beat Ed Couch.
I mean,
Yeah, they probably will. I mean,
I wouldn't say probably will.
I mean, I think the odds are...
They lost their top running back from what I heard.
Oh, really?
Los Fresnos, yeah. And they depended on him a lot. Unless he just got healthy and that turned out to be false. I didn't follow up on it because we don't really cover Los Fresnos.
Right, Los Fresnos isn't in our district area. So.
But, Egg Couch, man. Don't sleep on Egg Couch also.
I'm not sleeping on Ed Couch. I just know Los Fresnos is strong, and I feel like if Los Fresnos played Ed Couch, if those two teams healthy played each other 10 times, Los Fresnos probably wins 8 of those 10 matchups.
Wow, you're on the Los Fresnos bandwagon.
I think they're a really good team.
They're good.
I think they're better than Ed Couch. And I don't think Ed Couch is bad. I just think the matchup there favors Los Fresnos pretty heavily.
Okay.
Now, again, what makes Ed Couch so different is that offense. I mean, in terms of just being able to pass so consistently, that's something that not a lot of teams can do down here, and that throws off a lot of defenses. So
that makes a world of difference because every other team around here, almost every team around here just pretty much grounds and pounds on defense. If you can spread them out and get it to space, you can do a lot of damage, even if you're not as talented as the other.
Right, and even if your receivers aren't out there, if you have an empty backfield, you've got guys out there making space for your quarterback to go around because their quarterback, I know, can kill you both ways. So I shouldn't use kill. That's violent imagery. I apologize. It's just high school sports. It's just a game. So he can present challenges multiple ways. There we go.
Not just a game, John.
Shut up, Dennis. JK. Mario, 31-5A. General news, interesting tidbits from that district.
Did we swap?
Do you want to swap?
Fine.
You want to swap? Mario wants to stay off camera.
Okay. I mean, I could go.
Yeah, you want to come over here?
Make
Yeah.
sure the camera sees good.
Okay.
Yeah, get Mario over here. If you're listening again on the audio version of this podcast, thank you so much for doing so. You're more than welcome, as always, to join us on our live Periscope session. We have these 3 times a week. We preview Class 5A and 6A on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and then we also, on Saturdays, we recap the week in football that was. So, Mario, you're here.
Yes.
Scoot over just a bit. That way,
You want to get a little closer to you.
that way the camera can see us. So tell us a bit about 31-5A, just general news and interest for you from that district.
It remains the best district in the valley, John. Nothing's changed. I think the schools went 5-2 last week.
There's another hot take going. Best district in the valley, 31-5A. You heard it first from Mario.
The game I'm going to cover though is Harlingen South at Edinburgh Vella. I think it's the
That's
best
going to be
matchup.
good.
Yeah, I think it's going to be the best matchup. South lost last week, 28-24 to Wesco High. I don't know what to make of South yet. They had a down year last year.
Well, I mean, they're not north. JK, I'm teasing. Anyways, what else do you make of Harlingen South?
They have a balanced offense from last game. They posted 149 rushing yards, 129 passing. Wesco, I'm not too familiar with them, but they only passed for 20 yards.
Yeah, they were like 2 of 6 for 20 yards and an interception. Yeah, they just were not. But again, that's their bread and butter. They don't throw the ball. All they want to do is run the ball. So
I think that's the best matchup. And then there's Laredo United at Sherryland, which I think Greg might cover for us. Sherryland won last year, 28-23. I think Sherryland might lose. That's a United team that won in the 3rd round last year. Lost to Converse Judson. And it seems like they're stacked again. So I think Sherryland on the decline a little bit because of the split. I think they'll lose this game, which would make it the first 2-game losing streak, I think, in it's more than 2011, I think.
What you know about those Laredo schools, Mario?
I mean, I think they're all good, right? I can't think of a bad one.
They're all good. Yeah.
Is there a Brownsville Lopez of Laredo?
It's not United.
Figueroa?
Is it?
Well, speaking of Figueroa, they play Roma this week. They travel to
good
Roma. Did we have a chance to talk to Hamburger about
nice.
that game or anything along those lines?
About the game, no. They won that game last year, I believe.
Okay.
So it'll be good for Roma to actually play a full game this time. Assuming the Power's going to stay on this time, they're going to play at home. Then PI at Rio Grande City. That's a good test for Rio Grande City coming off a win against
Ingleside.
13-0.
That was probably the most impressive win last week.
Wow, overall?
Rio Grande City.
I mean, 31-5 or overall?
I think in the Valley.
Okay.
Because I think everyone just picked Ingleside because there's the whole reputation of Valley's team struggling against non-Valley teams. And last year they got crushed pretty handedly, like 35-7, something like that.
Yeah.
It wasn't even close. And then to shut them out like that, I mean, that was impressive. So props to the Rattlers on that one for sure.
If you look at the stat sheet, I don't think you could figure out how they won that game. They allowed like 250, 80 yards. Rio Grande City, I forget how many they had. I have it in my sheet over there. But they, just in talking with Coach Longoria, he thinks it was just the fumble. They recovered 4 or 5 fumbles. And he thinks that was the difference in that game against
Rio Grande City had 159.
159. And they gave up, what, 280?
They gave up 248.
248.
You're right. It sounds like an ugly game, and it looked like an ugly game just based on the numbers, but still.
Yeah, which is more or less what you'll see in week 1, a lot of sloppiness.
Right.
That's what happened in my game with Mission High and Mission Vets. And it's weird, too, because some of these teams won't go full out during their scrimmages, which that's the purpose for it, is to try to get your legs underneath and not be this rusty in week 1. And yet some teams end up suffering from that anyway in week 1. Other than that, there aren't too many interesting games. Valley View's at Zapata. Valley View's coming off a loss last week to PSG Southwest. They lost 13-6. They felt they were in that game. Sherland Pioneer at Pace. I take Pioneer, over Pace.
Mm-hmm.
Pace lost 72-27 last week to Edinburgh Vella. And then there's Mission Vets going to Odessa Permian. They lost last year too. Big loss for them. So I don't see them winning. So the sure bet, I guess, in this case would be Vella over South, United beating Sherryland, Valley View beating Zapata, Rio Grande City, PI, that might be more evenly matched, I think. PI, I think, had some turnover with their roster, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, their coaching staff.
Yeah, and Gruya forced 3 turnovers against them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a close game, too, coming down to
31-19.
Yep.
Roma over Laredo Segura, Pioneer over Pace, and Permian over Mission Vets.
Getting back to Vella, Harlingen South, I mean, you mentioned Vella. They had such a lopsided victory last week, 70 points to, 20?
72-27.
72-27. So, I mean, when there's something that lopsided, it's just kind of like PSG North, or like even, Mac High playing Permian last week. You don't really know how to gauge that kind of game. So, I mean, if you had a chance to talk to Vella, how were they preparing for a more formidable opponent than what they played last week? How were they expecting that to play out? Or just any kind of storylines that you think you'll be able to find more of an answer to in a game that looks to be a bit more close than it was last week?
Well, I think the biggest thing to take away was that they had a quarterback battle going into 2-a-days, and they might have their guy in Fabian Pedraza, who has 10 games experience starting last season. He started, and he helped them get going last week when Vella scored on their first 7 possessions. He had 3 touchdown passes during that stretch that helped them build like a 34, I forget what the thing was, 30-something to 0 first quarter lead. Also, they're thin at running back, so they moved some of their wide receivers to running back. And I thought at first that would hurt, their passing game, but it didn't. I thought 2 things would hurt their passing game: that they have a new quarterback, and his backup is a sophomore who played JV last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So that was a strength for them last season, and so that was a question mark, I think, coming into this year. So in moving their wide receivers to running back, I figured one of those would be compromised, but last week it wasn't. They both produced fairly even. Even 2 wide receivers had touchdowns on the ground. So overall positive for Vel. I don't think they could really I don't know what they would even complain about with this game. I mean, I think everything was positive all the way. Then again, it's Pace. Pace has really struggled the last few years ever since Brownsville Veterans opened up, and they absorbed a lot of their talent. So I don't know if we could really gauge Vela at this point. I mean, I had him going 10-0 in the regular season, so I don't know who they'll really be challenged with. Maybe Harlingen South might be their biggest one. I don't think it's anyone in district.
Okay. Same question that I asked you that I asked Dennis. If you look at the rest of the schedule at large, not necessarily in your district, but if you look at other games on the calendar, what was another game that you think might be intriguing as a sports reporter that you might want to go cover?
Well, Cerezo Edinburgh North?
Yeah.
Curious about that one.
Well, that was last week.
No, with Ed Couch.
Was Fresno's head coach? Okay.
Yeah. I want to see what Dennis says that Coach Elsa Yellow Jackets are all about.
I mean, I saw him in scrimmage, and again, at scrimmage you can take it with a grain of salt, but when they were clicking, it was fun. It was just deep pass after deep pass after deep pass. When Aguirre, their quarterback, connects with Segura or any of those receivers, I mean, they have the speed and they've got the size to just kind of fluff off some of the smaller defenders and just take it all the way.
I think we had them as their number 3 or 4 team entering the season. Which one was it for Los Fresnos?
Number 4, they're number 3 right now. They're number 3 right now, yeah. So,
I mean, I think if I'm not mistaken, they have largest enrollment then he won the Valley. I remember I saw him play a couple years ago, like 2 years ago, and I think they split their fresh off team. And I think they might even have like 2 JV, so they're loaded.
I think Los Fresnos is going to win it, like I said earlier. But again, if Ed Couch pulls the upset, I wouldn't be surprised because I've seen what they can do, and they are a matchup problem when that offense is clicking. It's just a matter of whether or not Los Fresnos can counteract it with their defense. And again, with Ed Couch, when they're clicking, it's such a mishap because, as Dennis was saying earlier, so many teams down here, they just want to run the ball. So defenses just load the box.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how a team like Los Fresnos, who is one of the more vetted teams in the Valley right now, how they respond to a team like Ed Couch, certainly.
Word.
Lock of the week. What's your guarantee?
Vela will beat South.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you pick Vela last week though?
I pick him every week.
That's boring.
Yeah. So you want me to go on a limb?
Maybe not go on a limb. Just don't repeat. I mean, you picked Vela to go undefeated this year, so technically they're a lock every week for you. Let's.
Yeah. Roma will beat Laredo Figueroa.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. Bold. We got a bold Dun North prediction. We got a bold Roma prediction. Greg and I will give our locks tomorrow. I guess we'll kind of look at the calendar and the schedule and see what all there is out there. I want to go with McAllen Memorial beating Econ, but that seems like kind of like a lazy pick. I want to go with something else. I got to look at it. But shouts to PSJ Memorial. Shouts to all of us, by the way. We all got our locks right. You were PSJ Southwest. You were Vela, right?
Yeah.
I had
veterans last week, which was, I think I was only going to pick Brownsville veterans.
Oh, yeah, you were the only one that picked Brownsville vets to beat Donna. Props to you for that. Greg, you picked Palmview.
Greg's prepping for the show.
Easy choice. I picked PSA Memorial, and I'll give due props to them tomorrow as well. They saved my butt there for a second. I thought I was going to be the only one that got their guarantee wrong, and they came through the second half. I'll give props to them tomorrow for that. Anything else before we go? Do you have any questions from Periscope Verse or Twitter Sphere or anything along those lines?
That wasn't painted.
Nothing from Periscope.
I think we're good. Well, thank you so much for checking out this episode of the RGVSports.com podcast. Thank you to those who have watched on the Periscope version, whether it's the live version or caught the replay. Thank you to those who are listening to this on the audio version on the podcast. Again, if you have yet to check us out on Periscope, I know we do it a little bit later in the evening, almost midnight, past midnight in this instance. But any time you get a chance to join us, please do check our Twitter and our Facebook accounts for the links around the appropriate time when you want to come watch. You can find us at RGVSports.com, again, on Twitter and Facebook. If you want to find this audio on iTunes, you can do that. Just search RGVSports.com, hit the subscribe button. It will come right to your smartphone. And I know I've been saying this for the past couple weeks, but I really am trying to get an RSS feed for all of you Android users out there. Please don't think I'm actively ignoring you. Just been very busy to send one simple email.
What about BlackBerry users?
What about BlackBerry users? I mean, I guess they're just SOL. They're Brownsville Lopez. Out of luck, I suppose. Anyways. Thank you so much for checking this episode, guys. Next time you hear from us, Greg will be on the show. We'll be talking about 6A football and getting ready for more Week 2 football action. See you next time, guys. All right.